college that shall remain nameless is effectively no longer my college. But if you do feel so inclined to, as if you were, unlike me, rich, and want to give a decent amount of money to a Catholic school that is well deserving of it and in need of it, think of Thomas More College in New Hampshire, in Merrimack, New Hampshire, which is going to be my home. I would like to begin by talking about the imagination. I think that Satan, if there's any Jesuit here, Satan is the Prince of Darkness. You know about the stupid joke about the Jesuit and the Franciscan? A guy comes up to the Jesuit and Franciscan and begs them to pray a novena for an SUV. And the Franciscan says, "What's an SUV?" And the Jesuit says, "What's a novena?" Anyway, I think that we underestimate, even those of us who are in fields of literature and the arts, we underestimate the power of the imagination. We tend to think our fallback position is that if the kids get decent instruction in the homilies at Mass, or they receive, I don't know what that is, good CCD classes, then everything will be all right. Go to Mass once a week and do family prayers. Things are fine. I think that Satan chuckles in his sleeve when he hears that, because what you have effectively done, perhaps, is to concede the whole territory of the imagination. I think he would gladly take the imagination and give you everything else. If you think of it as the game of Risk on the board, the Asia of the imagination is easily going to defeat little Australia of everything else put together. I would like to begin, but we're getting feedback. Yes, it is. They have the catheter. Can you take this out? I need this one. And I need this one. This guy. Yeah, right. I want to give you a couple of anecdotes. And I think it's fascinating that we look on the preaching of our Lord. He essentially is a master of the anecdote, or something much richer than an anecdote, a parable. I can't give you a parable, but I can give you stories. This particular story actually happened about 1,300 years ago. In one of the outbuildings of a monastery in a place called Whitby in England. And if you know anything about monasteries back in the old days, you get a lot of pretty good work done in a monastery, because you basically have a lot of men who are under obedience and who have been taught that to work is a form of prayer, and their prayer is itself work. So there was no snobbishness, no aristocratic Greek snobbishness about working with your hands. And with such people, if you don't work them to death, they have a balanced life, you get a lot done. And the monasteries became economic hotspots all across Europe. They basically do. And so if you were not a monk, though, you would attach yourself to the vicinity of the monastery because you could get work there. Okay? And that happened also all across Europe. So one night, a group of the guys who were not monks, okay? And none of these people know how to read. Okay? Read or write, none of them. Okay? They are probably the sons of people who were evangelized. Maybe a couple of the old ones had been evangelized themselves, so were former evangelized. So we're talking about first and second generation Christians in England. And these guys were in charge of tending the cattle. So what they did in an evening after they had done their work was get together around a big table And they did something that seems strange to us now. We're the ones who are strange. It would not seem strange to people of any other culture in the history of the world, or the history of the human race. They got together for beer. That doesn't seem strange to us. The word for get together or party in Anglo-Saxon is Yebership. It's the beer ship. It's the beer boat, you know? So anyway, they got together for a Yebership, and I asked my students, what is it that you need to have a party? We've got a bunch of, Germans who are going to be drunken Germans, very soon. Germanic people speaking a Germanic language. They don't have to drive, so, they're going to drink beer. You don't want to drink water. So what else do you need to have a party? And my students struggle a little bit. You need women. I said, no. This is the precincts of a monastery. No. This is a bunch of guys. They get together. They want to have fun. What do they need? And then somebody finally says they need music. They say, yes, they need music, and in what form? And this time my students are completely lost. Okay? Because the typical form that you would get music in, any place you go in the world, is poetry. So you can imagine a bunch of burly German cowbirds at a big oak table, pounding their, whatever they drink beer out of, I assume it's not their hands, pounding their mugs or their steins on the table, shouting, poem, poem. While they're doing this, a stringed instrument called a harp, not this big thing, but a kind of a zither or sort of instrument like that, makes its way around the table, from person to person. When the harp shows up at your spot, then your job is to strum the harp. Some people will be better at it than others, but your job is to sing a poem. Okay? Inevitably, these poems would be about their Germanic forebears, the epics that they had been taught since the time that they were little boys. They had heard sung by Grandpa, my Uncle Nath, Uncle Haradred, by their mothers and so on, and that they had heard their friends sing, they themselves and so on. And these songs were passed down from generation to generation over the course of many centuries. And we actually have physical corroboration of the events reported in some of these songs. There's archaeological finds that show that, in fact, such a battle that they were singing about in the year 700 did occur in the year 400 in a completely different part of the known world, or on the other side of the Baltic Sea. Okay? That's what they had, and that's a lot, and we don't have this. Anyway, my students find it strange that a bunch of Germans would be singing poetry. You might ask why they would think it's strange. Well, the poetry that they are exposed to, if they're exposed to any at all, which is now rare, is by anorexic feminists at Land-Grant State University, and other people that no normal red-blooded American boy wants to spend 5 minutes in the vicinity. Now, there was a cattle herder at the table named Caddy. And this story. So it's a beautiful story. This is recorded for us by the Venerable Bede, the first historian of the English Church, who also records to us precious historical documents, letters, letters printed in toto from Pope Gregory the Great to St. Augustine of Canterbury back and forth. Anyway, the harp was coming around to Cadman, and Cadman was embarrassed. I would be too. This is like Anglo-Saxon karaoke, and I wouldn't want to be part of it either. Maybe Cadman had a slightly different reason for being nervous. His excuse was that he didn't know anything to sing, but he got up from the table, and he basically said, see you later, fellows. I'll deal with the cattle. The cattle need to be dealt with before night in the shed. So I don't do that work. It's my turn to do that anyway. So he goes conveniently before the harp gets around him. He falls asleep in the cattle shed. This is told by Bede. This is a well-known story. And in his sleep, he has a dream. And an angel of the Lord appears to him in a dream. You notice you're all listening to me because I'm telling you a story. Okay? It says something, right? If I had said, no, a utilitarian education is not fit for human consumption, but we must pay attention to that part of the human psyche which, well, must, right? But I'm telling you a story about a guy who tended cows. So Cadman has a dream, and an angel of the Lord appears to him in a dream and says, in Anglo-Saxon, Cadman, sing me Quathwoo, which means sing me something. And Cadman says, I cannot sing, and that is why I left the beer feast, because I don't know any songs to sing. And the angel said to him, rather do not sing. Nevertheless, you do have the power to sing. What shall he sing? Sing me Wumschaft, said the angel. Sing me the first shaker, the first maker, creation. And Cadman then, in his sleep, in his mind, composed in the verse form that everybody was familiar with because it had been passed down to them for many, many, many centuries. He composed a little hymn. I give you the first couple of lines. It's just amazing to think that this is English. Nu schulden Herre in Herrenriches Werk, mehr zu besmerken als Modiathank. Werk wundervader, Swahili wonder was et richten oral style. And it goes on for another 5 or 6 lines. Right? Now let us praise the Lord of the kingdom of heaven, the measurer's might and his mind plan, as he established every wondrous thing from of old, and so on and so forth. He wakes up the next morning. Now you have to admit, this is a rather troubling thing to have happened. Okay? You have never done anything like this in your life. Or at least that's what Bede suggests to us. He wakes up the next morning, he's got this poem in his hand. He cannot read or write. And he never would learn to read or write. He goes to the bailiff, that is the steward, basically the foreman. Okay? The foreman is not a monk and is not a learned man. Okay? He doesn't know how to read or write either. The foreman says, this is beyond my pay grade, in Anglo-Saxon, and takes him into the monastery to meet the abbess. The abbess calls her wise men around her, and they say, this might be a difficult job. And being practical people, they decide to put it to a test. Have one of these guys here who can read tell Cadman a story from Scripture. Then have him go home and see what he can do with it. Okay. So they do. And he comes back the next day and he's got a poem. He can't read, he can't write. They say, this is an amazing gift. This is a gift from God. Would you like to join us? Would you like to be a monk in the monastery? Cadman says, yes. Right. And that's how he spends the rest of his life. They tell him stories. Okay? He never learns to read or write. Don't have to. They tell him stories, and he transmutes them into beautiful, tough, vigorous, Germanic, heroic poetry. Okay? And the monks who can read and write, they go home. And thus begins a new thing in the history of the church, a new thing in the world. The wedding of the ancient learning, including the scriptures, so ancient Greco-Roman learning plus scriptures, now meets pagan culture with pagan poetic form, and the two come together. Never happened. It's the first time. It's an established tradition in England that's went on for centuries. We get some phenomenal poems because of it. That story is something that people would understand any place you go in the world, at any time that you would visit people in the world to build out. that same kind of relationship to stories and acts of the imagination. We don't have that relationship at all with poetry. I give you another anecdote. Okay? This is now 1,150 years later, or so. And it's not in England, it's on this side of the ocean. It's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which in those days, in the late 1800s, was not quite what it is now, a haven for secular people who want to control the world. Back then, it was the site of Harvard Divinity School and Harvard otherwise. And a certain man was about to celebrate his 75th birthday. I believe I talked about this in one of my books. I came upon this anecdote as a reminiscence in one of my magazines. I collect magazines from the 1870s, 80s, 90s, especially the Century magazine. There's nothing like it that we have now, nothing you can use. So a man was reminiscing about the time that he and some friends of his, these were all boys. Think about in how many ways this story is unthinkable. Okay? So he and a group of other boys around the ages of 10, 11, 12, they decide to pay a visit to their favorite poet, who was Henry Longfellow. Longfellow lived in Cambridge. Longfellow was a remarkably generous man and a great lover of children. They wanted to visit him because it was his birthday. They knew that it was his birthday. And they wanted to congratulate him on his birthday and tell him how much they liked his poems. So they visit. And he invites them in, and they spend the whole afternoon there. They have tea there, tea and cupcakes and cake and things like that, things that boys do. They probably recited some poems. They had a grand old time. It was the last birthday that Longfellow ever celebrated on Earth. Okay? I think he was 75, either 70 or 75. He was an old man. Such was the power of the stories that he told through his verse, which was accessible to a wide range of people. I mean, Longfellow was an extraordinarily learned man. He knew the ancient languages, probably knew Hebrew, he certainly knew Latin and Greek, forwards and backwards. He knew the modern language. Modern languages back then meant something that wasn't Latin, Greek, for ancient people. So he was fluent in Italian and French, I believe also German. That was not a big deal. And yet this man, who was the most famous poet in America at the time, wrote things that everybody would love, including the little boys. And the little boys had the run of the town. See, there were no, what do you call them, the places where we send kids to, asylums. They had real freedom, and they paid a visit to this man unannounced. There was no scheduling with anybody important, like a secretary or like your mother. They just showed up there. That is impossible to imagine now. And it's partly because we have ditched poetry in the schools entirely, partly also because our children's imaginations are not formed by stories that are told by wise people who have good ends for them in mind, even if they are only human and natural ends, rather than thinking about the supernatural end of being one with God in heaven. I want to suggest to you all, okay, that the realm of story is eminently natural and human and Christian one. Okay, this is why we don't read the Bible we don't read the Bible primarily, or maybe even secondarily, for philosophical truisms. We read the Bible for the truth, and the truth is embodied for us, it's incarnated for us in the form of persons. And there are stories, most especially, of course, in a very special way, in the person of Christ. We ignore all this at our peril. However, the good thing is that our opponents in this strange place where we are now, they no longer have any stories. That from what I can see, the young people who are secular are fed the poisons of young adult fiction and stuff that Hollywood now produces. And I'm not talking about the golden age of Hollywood here. And worse things they can easily find on the internet. Their imaginations are formed by that. And if that's the case, it's over. It will require a miracle of God to bring them around to sanity after they've ingested all of that stuff. Okay? We need to see about this. And the good thing is that we've got basically anything that is human and natural is our ally. Okay? It doesn't have to be specifically Christian. And this is where my evangelical friends go a little bit wrong. They err. Dickens is a theological mush, okay? He's all over the place, but he is in love with goodness and the Gospels, and he's in love with the man that he called our Savior, okay? Dickens doesn't have to be theologically sensible to be our ally. And there are others too, all over the place, all over the place. It is time for us to make use of them. This is recommendation 1 for you. Now, I'd like to move here, a sort of lateral move backwards to the special kind of literature that is poetry. See, what has happened to that particular art in the contemporary period? For me, if I use the word modern, I did this at supper too, modern for me means anything after about 1500 to 1600. Modern English dates from about 1500, for instance. Modern philosophy may date from Descartes in 1600. It's the way people like me talk about such things, right? So anyway, what did I mean to say about that? I had a point in, yes. In our contemporaries, okay? So let's say American poetry after Robert Frost. English poetry, most of English poetry, not quite all, after W.H. Auden, T.S. Eliot, is written in a non-musical form. Okay? It's written in what's called free verse, which Frost despised. Frost called it playing tennis with the net down, which is no point to it. I mean, if you can imagine playing pool and all of the banks are holes, right? You shoot it and you make the ball. What's the point? It's meant to be seen on a page. And my students are often quite right when they sense that it really doesn't matter sometimes where the person ended the line visually on a page. There seems to be no particular reason to choose that rather than another. In fact, you could take any ordinary sentence, pick it out random from maybe your human resources manual at Nationwide Insurance. Okay, turn to page 23, take a sentence at random out of there, and break it up on a page visually, so that you get 5, 6 lines here. If the event that is a so-called act of God, period, then you move on to something else, right? And it, like a home, hey. And it's news to them, sometimes very happy news, that poetry has always been thought of before our time as essentially musical. Okay? It is meant to be heard. The music is also something not to be sniffed at. Okay? I had a dear friend, a Baptist pastor in Nova Scotia, where we lived during the summer. This guy is an interesting fellow. He had a gas station in Pennsylvania. And I am, by very nature, I'm predisposed to people who own gas stations who then become ministers. Because even if they don't know how to fix your soul, they can fix your car, oil heater. They might be actually better at fixing your soul than you expect. Anyway, he said to me, he was a late conversion too, so he had to go back to college in his 30s, which was somewhat embarrassing, and take classes with a bunch of kids who were outperforming. But he said that an elder pastor had said to him, just as he was beginning his own pastorate. That when a church, they're Baptist, so that means a congregation. Okay? When a church is about to go bad, the first thing to go will be the music. That's what the elderly Baptist pastor told me. Now, the fellow telling me this, I said, you probably might have that. He says, I don't know why that is true, but I know that, in fact, it is true. Now, I might be able to come up with some reasons why it would be true. The power of music is astonishing. It reaches the deepest levels of the human soul. It reaches areas in us that we don't even know we have and brings them up to consciousness. When Shakespeare in his plays, this is very frequent, when he wants healing to be bestowed upon someone who is very ill, music is played. I assume that it is not rap music, okay? Something that would, sort of encourage an epileptic fit. Music, said Shakespeare, music had the power to soothe the savage breast. If the man that has no music in his soul, he's fit for stratagems, for backstabbing, for contemporary politics. Watch out for that, it says in The Merchant of Venice. King Lear is half out of his mind. He's old, he's seen how he's been betrayed by 2 of his 3 daughters. He's on a sick bed, the doctor is attending him, and the doctor orders the gentle music to be played. Okay? That's in King Lear serves that function, in Julius Caesar, in The Tempest, in The Winter's Tale. It is all over, and as you like it, it's all over the place. Okay? I don't think it's accidental, and I don't think it's sentimental. I think something real here. Okay? That it's not just a matter of arbitrary taste. Okay? There really is a difference, perhaps, between listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony with the famous chords there, the tremendous, powerful stuff. There's a difference there, an affective difference. We might not be able to put it in words, but it'll affect us differently than if we're listening to Johann Sebastian Bach, Jesu Joy of Desire. Okay? And either one of them is going to be different from the third thing. From Handel, the great composer. If you want something that's triumphant, you go to Handel. Okay? See Where the Conquering Hero Comes from Judas Maccabeus, which is now in the old hymnals. Glorious things that are spoken. See Where the Conquering Hero Comes. Thine is the glory, risen conquering son. Now, I want to suggest to you something here, and be patient with me now. The greatest composers are much closer to genuine folk music than either one of them is now to what passes for music on the airwaves, or what I might call show music, once or twice removed from shows. So music that would be fit for an off-Broadway show. Again, the music that Bach was inspired by is closer to genuine folk music, which he, of course, also heard because he was a human being. Basically, human beings have had folk music until now. But they are closer to each other, to one another, than either of them would be to what is called folk music, basically, to off-Broadway shows. I'm suggesting something here that is more than a claim about aesthetic merit. That is, this song over here really is better than that one over there. What I'm suggesting is that this thing over there that everybody until recently has had, as part of their makeup, part of what it means to grow as human beings, to have that, okay? That is a different kind of thing from what is listened to now and from perhaps what is sung in many churches, both Catholic and Protestant. Okay? A different kind of thing. And I want to give you an example of this. I'm not going to say, if my wife were here, she would sing. Why is it that women are really brave about certain things that a man wouldn't be caught dead doing? Okay? If there's a mouse downstairs, I have to go deal with the mouse. I have to deal with dead things. But my wife would sing here. I'm not going to sing. You don't want me? See, God, it doesn't mean I have Mario Lanza's voice. He was better. Thanks. I want to give you, let's see, in chapter 3 here, I'm looking at this. This is a song that I found in an old hymnal. It's a rather long song. The stanzas are very short. The melody is exquisitely sweet. It's poignant, it's painful. Imagine singing the words that I'm about to read to you. Okay? This is a song that does something that no song composed for the Catholic Church since, I don't know, 1930, certainly since 1960, no song does. Okay? The song tells a story. It's called, in fact, the story of the cross. It begins like this. See him in raiment rent, with his blood dyed. Women walk sorrowing by his side. Heavy that cross to him, weary the weight. One who will help him stands at the gate. Multitudes hurrying pass on the road. Simon is sharing with him alone. Who is this traveling with the cursed tree, this weary prisoner? Who is he? On the cross lifted up, thy face I scan, scarred by that agony, Son of Man. Thorns form thy diadem, rough wood thy throne. To thee thy outstretched arms draw thine own. Nails hold thy hands and feet, while on thy breast sinketh thy bleeding head, sore oppressed. Loud is thy bitter cry, rending the night, as to thy darkened eyes veils the light. Shadows of midnight fall, though it is day. Friends and disciples stand far away. Loud scoffs the dying thief, mocking thy woe. Can this my Savior be, brought so low? Yes, see the title clear, written above, Jesus of Nazareth, name of love. What, O my Savior dear, what didst thou see that made thee suffer and die for me? And then Jesus answered, child of my grief and pain, from realms above I came to lead thee to life and love. For thee my blood I shed, for thee I died, safe in thy faithfulness now abide. I saw thee wandering weak and at strife. I am the way for thee, truth and life. Follow my path of pain, tread where I trod. This is the way of peace, up to God. And then he answers, oh, I will follow thee, star of my soul. Through the great dark I press to the goal. Yea, let me know thy grief, carry thy cross, share in thy sacrifice, gain thy loss. Daily I prove my love through joy and woe. Where thy hands point the way, there I go. Lead me on year by year, safe to the end. Jesus, my Lord, my life, King and friend. Nobody has done anything like that. You are all listening. It's extraordinary, and you could probably talk for an hour about all the deep strands of theology that are in that poem. You got a 10-year-old kid singing, and the kid's not going to be thinking about incarnation and theology. The kid is going to be soaked in the drama of that moment, with the person looking up at Christ on the cross saying, who is that? And the answer comes back, His glory. Why did you do this for me? I did this for you because I saw you wandering. I show you the way. And where is the way? It's the way pointed by His arms, which are nailed to the tree. I will follow. It's nothing like that. The old poets, and now I'm including those popular poets who wrote hymns. Okay? Most of these people, not all of them, some of them were poets of the highest rank. A majority of them, a large majority of them, were ordinary people. Ordinary people who had a way with words and a good ear for music. Sometimes they composed only the text, and they would fit it to a melody that everybody already knew. Sometimes they would compose the text, and somebody else would come along and provide a melody that was perfect for that poem. Okay? Different ways. Sometimes the composer and the poet is the same person. But they were good. I'm not saying that they were John Milton or Shakespeare. You have to be. Okay? And the melodies that they sang, they're not Johann Sebastian Bach, although Bach has great music that are based upon these melodies. They didn't have to be Johann Sebastian Bach, but they were good. Okay? They give you an example of how powerful this can be because the poets in question did not shy away from anything that had to do with human life, anything real in human life. Okay? I sometimes think that you go into a church and instead of Christ upon the cross, you should have the real modern God, his contemporary God, which is a big circle and a smiley face. He's the great God Smiley. I read in Scripture that God is love. Smiley isn't God, it's smiley. I read in Scripture that it is a terrible thing to fall into the hands of the living God, which we should all wish to have happen to us, even though it is a terrifying thing. Oh, not a terrible thing to fall into the hands of Smiley. I've got no hands. Listen now to a real poem. I will try to find this in chapter 11. Sorry, chapter 11 is Church Militant and Consolation. Day of wrath or day of work, no, that's not the one. You are my God today. That's possible. This is also something that our songsters have not done. And I can't be fooled about this. I've gone through thousands of hymns. Okay? Collecting hymnals is another hobby. And I play them badly on the piano. My son is learning how to play the church organ. He's learning how to play them well. This poem is inspired by two things. The knowledge that we all have that, well, unless you're a kid, kids, God love them, they're spared this, but once you hit the age of 30, once you hit that top of the hill and you start accelerating on the downside, you are aware, and the thought may come to you almost every day, you are going to die. Okay? Well, it's inspired by that, and by the passage in St. Luke where Jesus, after the resurrection, catches up with the two guys on the road to Emmaus. And he explains scriptures that they don't recognize him. And the evening is falling, and they say, tarry with us a while, Lord. The evening is drawing near. Let's put in at the end. And Jesus agrees and blesses the bread when they're at table, breaks the bread. And they suddenly know him, and he vanishes from their sight. They know him in the breaking of the bread. So the poet is thinking of that scene and of the universal human experience. One that is very powerful and one that we should deal with, right? Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempter's power? Who like thyself my guide and stay can be? Through cloud and sunshine, Lord, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? St. Paul. Where grave thy victory? I triumph still, if thou abide with me. And then the final stanza, which is, it's reminiscent of what you would sing at Compline, what you would say at Compline at the night prayer of the church. Into your hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life, in death, O Lord, abide with me. That's phenomenal. Now, not all of the old hymns were that good. But the very worst of them was not stupid. Or heretical. The very worst of them were workmanlike. You know? I mean, you would look at maybe a newel post on a banister and you'd say, okay, no, it does the job, right? That was the worst of them. The best of them are exquisite, small works of art that people in the old days had in their souls because they sang hundreds of them from the time they were 3 years old. And this too formed their imaginations, formed their hearts, and in ways that we find very difficult to analyze. Maybe they're beyond analysis. You not only, after all, see words on the page, you hear them in your ears, you experience them in your body as you sing the words, if you sing them with any meaning at all. You hear your own voice singing, you hear your mother's voice singing, and your mother is no longer around so that you can hear her voice singing. My father is no longer around, but I can hear his voice singing. And he was not a good singer. But he sang. I wish he had had better things to sing. I am recommending here, okay, very strongly recommending, that the church go up to the attic and open the boxes up there, because they are filled with treasures. I am not saying that the Hope Diamond is up there. Hope Diamond doesn't have to be up there. Things that are really beautiful. Sometimes small and gentle things, sometimes glorious things. Jesus' priceless treasure that Bach set to music, that is a glorious thing. Okay? Nearer My God to Thee is a deeply moving thing. Others are more lighthearted. They're all huge range. Open the boxes. Get the treasures out. Dust them off. They don't belong in the boxes anymore. Okay? And they're meant for everybody. You don't have to be a great singer to sing these. You don't have to be an academic to love poetry. This is crazy. All human beings in all cultures have had their songs and their poems. They're the weird ones. Okay? Open the boxes. Get the treasures down from the attic. And revel in them. Enjoy them. They are for every moment of life. Moments of joy, moments of mirth, which is joy's country hillbilly cousin. Moments of confusion, of pain, of calm, of hope, of despair in times of trouble. They span the wide range. As an ad lib, I'll just tell you this one thing, right? I know that I've gone over time, but so what? I have you here. I have you here. I look at the hymnals that have been produced since 1960 in the Catholic Church. Okay? I have to take Zoloft or something before but I noticed that there is only one hymn that survives the expurgation that has to do with a fighting church. And there's only one reason why it survives. It's because it's the only hymn that Catholics will associate with the Feast of All Saints. And that is For All the Saints. Although in Canada, in the Canadian hymnal that is most commonly used, they have even bowlerized that hymn so as to remove from it most of the notions of masculinity and fighting. Okay? That is the only church militant hymn that is left surviving in every single hymnal that I have seen in the Catholic Church published since 1970. Okay? All you have to do is go to any hymnal published before him and just read through. Okay? And you will find that out of maybe 500 or 600 hymns, 50 or 60 that have to do with that. That would especially inspire certain kinds of people, like 13-year-old boys spoiling for a fight. And if God didn't make them to be spoiling for a fight sometimes, then he was just not paying attention. It is not a bad thing to want to fight in a just cause. And if the cause is just, you want people who are eager to fight. And the girls, the women, they love to sing those songs too. Okay? It's like having a choir and banishing to the outer rooms everybody who has a deep voice. Well, then you're missing a great lot of humanity there. And there's no reason for it. The New Testament is full of images of the fighting church. And there's no reason to be embarrassed by it. They're also in boxes up there. Open the boxes, take things down. But one last thing I'll suggest to you in all of this. Okay? See, all these things are our allies. Genuine folk stuff is, take it all in all, going to be friendly to us. Nature out there is very friendly to us. Okay? I think part of our insanity is that we're artificially removed from nature. Okay? I mean, any kid who grows up on a farm can tell you the difference between a bull and a cow. Okay? I have written in one of my books, we're so sophisticated, right? Our grandparents didn't have ultrasounds, so they were unsure about the sex of a child before it was born. We're more sophisticated now. We're unsure about the sex of a child after. There's a beautiful world out there, and that is our ally. Okay? Outdoors is a better ally to us than indoors. But the sexes are allies to us. Okay? And there's no reason to be ashamed of this. This is a weird kind of thing. The Puritans of old get a bad rap. They were actually not prissy. Okay? After all, most of them were farmers. You can't be prissy if you're a farmer. They maybe were sometimes a little bit skittish about too much merriment, but they believed in God. I mean, they had a lot of things going for them, our Puritan fathers. We have all of their, the nasty side of the Puritans, the judgmental side, even among people who say you should never be judgmental or worse. The sense of smug self-righteousness, and none of the belief in God. Okay? The worst of Puritanism without its heart of faith. The Puritans were not skittish about the sexes. We're the ones who are, and yet we have the worst of all possible worlds, right? We have a hookup anti-culture out there, okay? Mass fornication, and yet we can't even notice. We're not even forbidden to notice the most obvious things about the sexes, male and female. That's insane. Okay? That's totally insane. I mean, and that is to be puritanical in a way that's unjust to the real Puritans. It's a way to be puritanical and debauched at the same time. Right? And quite mad. And there's no fun in it. If God did not want us to have fun, He wouldn't have created Italians. But if God, it was not good for the man to be alone. Notice He created somebody whom the man would never understand. Think about this. I need to be as politically incorrect as possible. Somebody is in the bathroom poring over an atlas, checking out to see where the interstate highways go. Okay? That is not your mother. Okay? That's your brother-in-law. Okay? That is something that does. Guy coming up to his friend that he hasn't seen in 4 years, saying, "Oh man, I see marriage has been good for you. What did you do? Put on 70 pounds?" A woman doesn't do that. Okay? They're completely different ways of relating to one another. In normal people, this is a source of endless amusement, frustration, fascination, gratitude. Okay? We need to recapture all of that. And it's not going to happen by the way. It's not going to happen accidentally. Our kids no longer know how to deal with one another as members of the opposite sex. They don't. It's all been gone. It's a scorched field. Okay. So you've got to imagine that everything has been leveled as if an atomic bomb had hit. There's nothing left. My students don't date. They wouldn't know where to begin. Okay. And they're not to be blamed for that. The whole language of dating has been leveled. The kids will not restore this on their own. This is where people with some sense of responsibility and some gratitude for sexes. That is, you actually have men who like women, and women who like women. You know what a decent man will do for a woman who shows that she actually likes men? I mean, there's nothing we won't do. Okay? All you have to do is say, you know, you're big and strong, and I'm up on the roof now. I'm afraid of heights, but I'm not afraid of heights now. You know men like that. I mean, they're even like that at 11 years old. Mom says to you, and you're thinking, now, should I climb up on that cliff or not? You're actually kind of afraid. Mom says to Junior, don't you climb up on that cliff, I'm afraid. Then Junior's up on the cliff. Oh, Mom, what are you saying? I'm not going to do that. Right? But people who actually like the sexes, we need to do this for the kids. We need to do it all the time, not just once a year. Okay? This has got to be a regular feature of their lives. It too is a source of endless works of the imagination, which a lot of people in the anti-culture no longer understand, no longer appreciate. How can you appreciate a love story in that environment? Okay? I mean, it's like saying go outside. Well, go outside. That's all been hit by an atomic bomb. What's there to look at outside? We need to restore this. It won't be done. It won't be done, so to speak, naturally by just raising good kids and hoping that it'll happen. And you have to do all kinds of out of the ordinary things to have it happen. If it involves getting a hat, 2 hats with names on pieces of paper in them, okay? And you pick a name from this hat, the boys, and you pick a name from that hat and the girls, and you say, okay, you're taking her out on a date, and you are going to do A, B, C, D, E. It takes that, and it takes that. Okay? My students are, the best of my students are very lonely because they don't take part in the hookup thing. Okay? The others are even lonelier because they do. Okay? And the people in charge of the college that shall remain nameless, since they are consumed with politics and not with culture, not with humanity, not with real human beings, they pay it no attention at all. In fact, I was told by one of my students that they say, if you happen to be, they don't use the word fornicating, but if that's what they're doing, if you happen to be doing that in your room, you may want to alert your roommate by putting a sock on the doorknob outside. Okay? That is the response of the college that used to be sensible to this massive human problem. Okay? Where we can't We have to do more than say, well, we don't do that. We have to give them healthy, wholesome, fun things to do. Not theology on tap all the time. Dances, bowling, everything that normal human beings used to do. They didn't have to be instructed how to do. We're going to have to instruct the kids how to do. So I'm going to let you go after this long harangue. More or less these things have to do with the imagination. And you may applaud if you like. I won't take it. I am in favor of the abacus. Now you know something about the abacus. Okay? I believe that to this day the Japanese use it in their schools. And I'm not kidding about this. Because the abacus gives you a visual and tactile and kinetic grasp of the decimal number system. Okay? So that you can see, touch, and move numbers. Most other technology I find worse than worthless because you tend to depend upon it, and you never do develop a facility with numbers. It's as if you never walked on your 2 feet but rode a cart your whole life long. Well, your legs will atrophy. You need the exercise. I think that schools have, I'm not surprised that they did this because they have not made, in my mind, they have not made a wise decision since John Dewey. So our public schools have made one grossly mistaken decision after another since about 1920. Okay? But the rot goes very deep. In the 1950s, they're already writing the book, Why Johnny Can't Read. And if you take a look at school books circa 1930, you see that they suddenly dropped off the brink of something. By 1950, they plunged into inanity. Okay? They made one bad decision after another, and an extremely expensive decision and counterproductive was to stick a screen in front of every kid. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Okay? They short-circuit the imagination. They reward a desire for instant gratification. Okay? They give the kid no peace of mind. You can't daydream with a screen in front of you. You will not daydream. It's a crutch, and it's a bad crutch. Get rid of it. Okay? I did a fundraiser for a school called St. Gregory the Great Academy in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago. And since it's a boys' boarding school on a mountaintop in Pennsylvania, they know that they cannot afford to have any television, any computers, any cell phones, any smartphones, or anything like that. Nothing. Because they know that the moment they allowed any one of those things there, they lose the school. Because they are teenage boys, they'll be online, and they'll be looking at porn. Okay? Because they're not saints, right? Get rid of it. So actually, those boys end up learning how to do a whole lot of natural and healthy things. There's a boy there who is a blacksmith. He has his own forge. He's about this small. They learn how to do carpentry. They play soccer and rugby outdoors constantly. And that's everybody. The kids who are good at it and the kids who are not good at it. They're really healthy because they're outdoors. They wander the woods. They'll learn how to sing, they learn to juggle and ride unicycles, and their art room is the big room with table saws, jigsaws, drill presses, and so on. Okay? Just what you would want, right? Not finger paints, but things that can cause destruction. I mean, you know that you got the spirit of a boy when you see a mountain and you say either, I want to climb that mountain, or I want to blow a hole right through it and make what is known as a tunnel. Get the screens out. Okay? The most sophisticated technology ever invented by mankind has been around with us for a long time now. It translates the very thoughts and feelings and experiences of human mind into a code, but not a strictly determined code, a code that is open-ended, so that another human mind can encounter it and have vicariously the same experiences, but different ones too, melded with his own thoughts and experiences. It is called a book. Nothing as good as one of those has ever been invented. The screen keeps the kids from being patient enough to read good books. And I'm not talking about the great books, I'm just talking about good books. Get rid of them. Save yourself a lot of money too. Donate them, then you make tax write-offs. Human Veritatis came out in, was it 1969 or 68? 68, yeah. 68 when the world went to pot because the St. Louis Cardinals lost a 3-game lead against the Detroit Tigers. The first time in my life I knew that that was tragedy in the world. It's like a Michigan. What a year. Football, it astonishes me that anybody, after all of this has happened, okay, so we're almost 50 years later, that anybody could blame Pope Paul VI, because at the time, people were saying, if you allow this conversation, we will have paradise on earth, warm puppies and pink icing, and everything will be fine, right? And Pope Paul, the contrarian, said, no, if you allow this, you will have this, and this misery. He wasn't the first to say that. Aldous Huxley, who was not a believer, said the same thing in Brave New World. When the Anglicans decided to go off the reservation in the Lambeth Conference in 1930, and then Pope Pius XI came up with Casti Connubii, almost on the heels, they were right next to each other. Okay? Two great responses, one from a secularist dope-taking crazy man, Huxley, and the other from that Pope with fire in his veins, Achille Ratti, right? It's a guy, we need more popes named Achilles. It just occurred to me, the most fiery pope of the 20th century, his first name was Achilles. Came out with Casti Connubii. If I look at Human Veritatis now, the only blame that I can attach to Pope Paul, other than that he didn't preach it afterwards, was that he was entirely too optimistic. I mean, it was not nearly pessimistic enough. Everything that he said came true, and much worse. But it's almost 50 years later, we don't care. Right? I mean, if you could give to the people in 1968, even the hippies, if you could give to the hippies in 1968 a snapshot of campus life at the college which should remain nameless, which is actually, comparatively speaking, a sane place, okay? They would all be rending their garments and heaping ashes on their heads and saying, we're sorry, we don't want that. We don't want a world like that, where the sexes can't stand each other anymore, and about half of marriages end in divorce, and who knows how many other sexual liaisons that produce children break up. They're not even covered in the divorce statistics, right? We don't want that. We're being insane. But now, 50 years later, we're corrupted enough so that we say, oh, yeah, sure, rat poison and cardboard, yeah. We shouldn't be too judgmental about people's cuisines. Oh, I assumed that he was going to memorize it in Italian. Mine, of course. You said start with. You didn't say end with. You said start with. Okay. Start with. Then I would say Inferno 3. Now, my favorite part of the Divine Comedy is Earth. The best poetry by far is in Paradise. Inferno is the easiest to teach, because we know more about it. We live. But I would start with Inferno 3, which begins, Virgil has given Dante the bad news. Fella, if you are ever going to escape this miserable place where you are now, which is somewhere between New Brunswick and Newark, you're going to have to go on a journey. But we're going to have to go down to the depths below, and Dante gets cold feet in Canto 2, and only the story of how Beatrice came to Virgil to help Dante, only that persuades him. But Dante is a master of drama. Canto 3 simply begins. Boom. Per me si va nella città dolente. Through me you go into the sea. I am the way into the sea of woe. Per me si va nell'eterno dolore. I am the way into eternal sorrow. Per me si va I am the way to go on. Justice caused my high architect to move. Divine omnipotence created me. The highest wisdom and a primal love. Before me there were no created things but those that last forever, as do I. And then comes the motto of the state of New Jersey. As soon as you cross over the Delaware River, lasciatemi speranza, abandon all hope. But I'd immediately sweeten things up with cantos from Purgatory. If you were ever moved to weep when you read the Divine Comedy, it would be Purgatory. And weep tears of gratitude and wonder and joy, because it is not a place. It's not low carbohydrate hell. It's an infirmary. People sing and pray in Purgatory. They suffer, but suffering is solace to them. And they sing. There's no singing in hell. There may be rap music now. Or the opening to the Brady Bunch. That would be cool. You imagine, I tell my students, this is my idea of hell. You've got a single room, there's no way out, there's television on, it's got 50 channels, and they're all playing the same thing. It's the opening to the Brady Bunch. And then the maid gets in the middle of the kitchen and starts all over again. So they used to say in the old World War II videos warning the men against certain diseases, don't let this happen to you. But if you had asked me which one canto I would memorize, it would either be Paradise 10, where he meets Thomas Aquinas, or Paradise 33, which begins with St. Bernard's prayer to Mary, and ends with the vision of God, the incarnate. Yeah, well, he was a bit of we're not sure that he believed that Christ was the divine Son.
Correct.
Yeah. It's a great hymn. It is a great hymn.
For me, it makes me think that there's more going on with Harry Emerson Fosdick than I give him credit for.
That may be. Lately, I've been listening to it or singing it in its Welsh form and as translated into English as Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah. So the text, Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, guide me, O Thou Great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. I am weak, but Thou art mighty. Hold me with Thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, feed me now and evermore. That's the first stanza. And in Welsh, it's different. I can give you the second and third stanza in Welsh, actually. So that hymn in English is Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, is a direct translation from the original Welsh hymn, written by a Welshman named Hughes in the 1800s. But I still like God of Grace and God of Glory. God of Grace and God of Glory is a tremendously vigorous and masculine hymn. Grant us courage, grant us wisdom, and then comes a refrain that's different for each stanza. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage, that we fail not man or thee, that we fail not man or thee. It's a muscular hymn. And if our songsters had been writing things like that, I would have no cause to complain. Instead, they write "Jesus is my boyfriend" songs and "Me and my boyfriend." I did not expect a question about Mr. Fosdick. When I was a kid, though, the only Fosdick that I knew was Fearless Fosdick. A brutal parody of Dick Tracy by Al Capone when he was a little lad. You know, I wish to say that genuine folk music is friendly to us, and we needn't be. Look, if the kids are listening to folk, a love song that I believe I mentioned in one of my books, Any Glory, and for Bonnie, Annie Laurie, I'd lay me down indeed. I'd lay me down and die, right? For Bonnie, Annie Laurie. That is a beautiful thing. A little 10-year-old boy learns to sing, but it gets into his heart, right? And it speaks of things that are permanent, things that are eternally true about the human condition. That we need to encourage.
Which is exactly what Paul said in the future wise Christ.
Right.
Who died for us.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That is true patriarchy, true government by the father, and not male domination, which is what you get otherwise. The choice in culture is, we're not talking about anarchy in one form or another. We're talking about any kind of thing that actually works. It's going to be either the bad thing, male domination, or it's going to be patriarchy. The feminists have achieved conquest by confusing the two. The two are very different. Just think about the government of a household by a wise and gentle father. Okay? And now think about brute male domination by so-and-so's boyfriend who wants his way done. Take your pick, but you have to choose between either one of those or chaos. And I think that our religion teaches us that the one is good for everyone. It involves that kind of hierarchy that is a gift to everybody in the hierarchy, kids, neighbors. I took my wife to a play that neither of us liked. I don't remember the name of it. What am I reading? I'm actually writing something. And I don't want to say what it is. Because it's completely different from anything that I've done. It's an immense project, and it's 94% done. I even worked a little bit on it on the airplane coming over. And it is part of this idea that I have to reclaim all the works of the imagination, reclaim the arts. There's no place to begin but to begin, right? I mean, you have to start somewhere as you stop. Others of you may be good at various things, and you just start. Right? Growing vegetables in the backyard and teaching kids about life, just start. So I'm doing something that in my vein is start. Otherwise, I'm picking up a book that I'm rereading, and it's a wonderful book, and he would be in seventh heaven if he were here today by the now elderly Dominican Ignatus called Chesterton Theologian. It's a splendid book and totally readable, okay? Totally sane and sweet and readable, by a Dominican who understands that this journalist, okay, this kind of hokey and addle-brained journalist who never quite knew where he was, who was a total genius also, is a better tonist than just about anybody in the whole 20th century filled with Dominican tonists. That is a remarkable thing for a Dominican priest and a theologian and philosopher of some merit. Nichols is a very great theologian. He's absolutely not. And it would be fit reading for anybody. You don't require a special training in theology to understand. It's brilliant, brilliant. Okay.